you how to make some really cool recipes, kind of college style. So today we're gonna make a super simple, super easy Alfredo sauce just with some angel hair pasta, and we're also going to spruce up some store-bought crescent rolls. Just kind of, round it out, make that complete meal. So just a couple prep steps. My oven is preheating to 375 degrees. I do have two pans back there. One with that's full of salted water for our pasta, and then the other one is for obviously our sauce. So first of all, to get started, we're going to want to put a half a cup or a full stick of butter into our saucepan and just let that melt on probably about a medium-high heat. And that's just going to help us get our pasta started, or our sauce. Sorry. So the first thing we need is our onion. So we're only probably going to use about a quarter of this onion, and an onion lends some pretty awesome flavor to the sauce. A lot of people prefer to leave it out, but I like to put it in. So when you're cutting an onion, always make sure to take off that top layer. Even if it is peeled from the grocery store, you never know who touched it. You always want to make sure to remove that as well, just to be as sanitary as possible. And the easiest way to cut this onion is you're going to want to dice it. So you're going to want to find that root end and face it away from your knife. Make some cuts in just to create that nice dice for you. Always watching your fingers. And then just go in, bare claw, hold your knife very firmly, and just cross. And like I said, I'm only going to use about a quarter of this onion for our sauce. So just break that up a little bit for us. Slide it to the back of the cutting board. Wait for that butter to heat up. Rinse off the onion because nobody likes to have onion on their hands. And now we move into garlic. Now, when we're considering garlic, there are lots of different things that we could use. Every college kid has this in their pantry, so it's just a little bit of garlic powder. Hey, whatever works best for you. You can also buy garlic paste in a tube. I prefer not to use this. I like minced garlic. You can buy it already minced for you, but you can also buy a garlic clove. Super easy. You just peel everything out of it, and I can actually show you. Just crush out one of those little cloves. So if you just apply a little bit of pressure on your cutting board, pop out one of those little cloves of garlic. You're also going to have to peel that as well. It's got like a papery skin on the outside of it. So just peel that off. See, there's your clove of garlic, there's your papery skin. And basically just mince it. A mince is a very, very, very fine chop. And I'm only going to put one clove of garlic in here just because fresh garlic does tend to have a much more potent flavor than anything else. And that's definitely not something you would want to have bite into. Just in the middle of the sauce. It's not very pleasant. So check back on this butter. Melting very nicely. Turn it up just a little bit to melt a little bit faster for us. So I'm going to throw in our onions. And you want those to cook as much as possible because, again, you wouldn't want to bite into a full onion in an Alfredo sauce. So getting those in as early as possible is very important. We can go ahead and throw our clove of garlic in there as well. Get that cooking in that butter. Stir that around. Make sure to watch this as well. You definitely do not want to burn those onions. That'll ruin the entire sauce. So just make sure to keep an eye on those as those are cooking. Alright. And as I mentioned, we are going to also do some crescent rolls, and just store-bought. You can actually buy this little container. There's 4 in here for $1 at Giant Eagle. And you just pop them open, roll them out. Now I always foil line my sheet pans, much easier to clean up in the end. So basically, you just roll them out, and then I have a small little bowl here where I've melted about half a stick of butter with some fresh garlic and some fresh parsley and basil as well. So what we're going to do with that, just mix it up a little bit, and then just spoon a little bit onto each one before you roll it up. And what that's gonna do is just give it that little bit of kind of an Italian-esque flavor per se, kind of lend to the entire meal. And you can really do this with anything. Say you wanted to do this with spaghetti, or you could really do it with any time that you are making these. So just spread those around. And keeping in mind as well that when you add moisture to a dough, you do have to bake it a little bit longer. So keeping that in mind with our cook time. So these say to cook for about 9 to 12. I'd take it to at least that full 12. Just to make sure that those rolls get completely cooked before we try to eat them. So just kind of stirring around these onions, making sure they don't burn. And then I'm just gonna roll these up. Alright, so those may not look exactly the prettiest, but we got it done. Rinse all that excess butter off my hands. And then, like I said, my oven's been preheating to 375 degrees. Package says to cook them for 9 to 12. I'll put them in probably for at least 10, I'd say. Give them a check, and we will check in on them then. Now, we're gonna check in on those onions and garlic. And by now they should be pretty translucent depending on how small you cut them. So mine are looking pretty good right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna move on to the next step of that Alfredo sauce. I have a pint of heavy whipping cream here. You can just use heavy cream. You can use half and half. I prefer heavy whipping cream. Makes it just a better sauce in my opinion. So I'm gonna add this whole thing into the pan. And then you just want to heat that, but you want to watch it pretty closely. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. Give it a stir. Now when you're cooking a liquid dairy, you do want to watch it pretty closely. Make sure it doesn't burn, because it can curdle in your pan. So just kind of be cognizant of that. Make sure to watch out for that. And then the next thing, just some salt and pepper. We just want to add that into there, just a few cranks of each. And you don't really got to stir that in. And now we just kind of wait for that cream to heat up. We're going to wait for those crescents to cook, and yeah, so we'll be right back. Alright, welcome back guys. So while you were gone, I did a little bit of cleaning up. Always make sure when you have a little bit of lull in time while you're cooking, just to make sure to clean up your workspace. Makes it a lot easier to move around, do the next step of things, everything like that. So while you were gone, I did pull out our crescent rolls. Those are smelling amazing. And then our sauce did thicken up a little bit, which is what we're looking for before we move to the next step with our sauce. And again, make sure that cream doesn't boil. Again, you don't want it to curdle or anything like that in that pan for you. Kind of just ruin the whole sauce. Moving on to kind of the next step is the pasta. So I get in arguments all the time about what pasta is the best to use with what sauce and things like that. I get told all the time with an Alfredo and the fat level in an Alfredo that a penne or a rigatoni is always the best, just with those grooves on the side. But I personally enjoy angel hair, so that's what we're going to be using today. And just to show you a little bit of a trick, so if you've ever wondered what that little hole is in your spoon, it's actually there to help you measure out one portion of your pasta. So I always use that, especially if I'm only cooking for me, because we all know we're all tempted to put half of that box of pasta in there because we think we're that hungry, but this is that perfect portion for you. So we're just going to throw this in that boiling salted water that we've had back there since we began, and that's going to cook for about 3 to 4, possibly 5 minutes until they're al dente. So that's just until they're almost fully cooked but have just that little bit of bite in the middle. So I'm going to put that in that pot back there. Again, that is boiling salted water. That's very important. And then while we wait for that to cook, we're going to move on to the next step of our sauce, which is adding the cheese. So I use Parmesan. I've heard a lot of people use different kinds of Parmesan. I've heard people use Asiago. Parmesan is very mild tasting, so that's what I prefer to use. I use shredded. Some people will use shredded at home. Some people will buy the bags of shredded cheese. Some people will buy the grated cheese. Totally up to you. But I'm going to add this entire container of shredded Parmesan cheese and mix it into the sauce and see how. Alright, so just the next step is kind of allowing that to thicken up. I did turn it down a little bit, as you may have seen, and I did add that entire container of Parmesan cheese. I do always keep an extra just in case. It's not enough, or I want it a little thicker. It's kind of dependent on the batch of cream also, and just kind of how long you allow that cream to heat up and how much you allow it to thicken. It also depends on various things like your butter and things like that. So just kind of to preference. I also always do keep a little bit of milk on hand as well when I'm making this, because if you do add too much cheese or if it thickens a little bit, you let it cook a little too long while you're waiting for that pasta to cook. You can just add that milk in there and just stir it around until you get it to that desired consistency, and then you're good to go. So while we wait on that pasta to cook and the sauce to thicken, we're just going to cook that pasta again to al dente, and I'll be back with the finished product. Alright guys, I'm back with the final look at everything. So here we have that entire portion of that pasta with some sauce on there. And obviously if it's a feast, we want to make it look a little nicer. So I'm just going to put a little bit of an extra sprinkle. And let's go a little bit more of that Parmesan cheese on there. A little bit of that fresh parsley. And I'd say I'm ready to enjoy our feast. So if you guys have any questions or any suggestions for future recipes, just comment them down below or shoot it to our social media at UEdgeAkron. Feel free to stop in and just give us any of your suggestions. As always, make sure we're staying safe, washing our hands, keeping our social distance at the moment as well. And as always, go Zips. Have a great day, guys.